Hey, the franchise, Shane Douglas on the road with the franchise today. Here with somebody I've really always gotten along so fantastically with. I'm excited. I don't know if you've seen these yet, Pondo. What I do, a few things get thrown in there as ideas, but I just love hearing the guys' stories because I know that the snot-nosed kid I wasn't broke into wrestling, and I'm always, because there's a million avenues into this business, and it always, what was the first thing that hooked you? Like, when did you know you wanted to be a professional wrestler?
Not my grandpa and grandpa, but my great grandma and grandpa. So my family is very reserved, and we wasn't religious, but we didn't talk about Jesus or anything like that. And me and my brother would sit there and watch my great grandma and grandpa watch wrestling, and next thing we knew, there was dirty motherfuckers and pieces of shit, and me and my brother was just blown away.
How old are you at this time?
6, 7, and and my grandma and my mom's both telling them, "Hey, you got to stop saying that stuff around the kids," and they would for about maybe 3 bumps, and next thing you know, So that was enjoyment to me as a small child. So that's how I learned that I that I loved wrestling, and then. A trade that is gone. Do you remember tape trading?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was a big tape trader. And I was never well off, but my parents was. And they had the first pirated satellite. I mean, this thing was huge. It was bigger than this room, right? And you had to move it with the signal and all that.
Yeah.
But it was pirated. So I got all types of wrestling.
From everywhere.
From Mexico. John Paul had a company. I can't remember what the name of it was, but that's the first place I saw Ken Shamrock. Just wrestling after wrestling to the point where I had my own place, but I would record that over at my mom's. My mom would be like, "You want to get all these videotapes out of here?" And I had a wall of them,
And then you were trading, like selling them out and stuff?
Trading with people.
Yeah.
But the ones that I wanted was the Puerto Rican death matches and the Japan death matches. And the reason being because, so in your house, remember them god-awful every week pay-per-views WWE was putting on?
Yeah.
Well, me and 11 friends, we would conjure up to $50 and get them. And after a while, maybe the first match, always the main, but in between, we wasn't really paying attention to the TV all that much. After, though, they would say, "Hey, you got another one of them deathmatch tapes," and I would put it in, and all eyes were on the TV.
Yeah.
So I knew.
Clicked.
Yeah. I'm like, oh shit! If my friends, because my friends are as sick as I am,
Yeah.
if they loved it, then I knew that's what I would love.
Yeah.
And I had a tape that had Mr. Pogo versus Masanaga. It was like a compilation.
Yeah.
And that's the guys that I watched to be stupid like I am today doing this stuff. And Mr. Pogo's passed away, Masanaga. I'm on first name basis with both them guys.
Yeah.
So what other dream could I do?
Right.
And then here's the thing. I did a show in Indiana I wasn't even working then. But there was all these guys running around talking about, "Hey, listen to me, I'm a vet.
Right.
Hey, I've been in the business 15 years. Hey, I've been in the business 20 years. And here's the thing. Yeah, I do a lot of stupid things, but I use my brain." And I sat back. What they did, they put all the jobber kids on one side of the room, and then they felt special being on this side of the room.
Yeah.
But I was smart enough to know, you know what? If these guys have been wrestling 15, 20 years, I hadn't heard of none of these motherfuckers.
Right.
I didn't want to be that.
Yeah.
So, you remember Inside Wrestling, Wrestling Review magazine, Pro Wrestling Illustrated's little brother. Every year, they would put all the federations, one time a year, they'd put all the federations and the addresses for these federations.
Mm-hmm.
I made 48 fucking videotapes.
No kidding.
And sent them all out. And then...
and what year would this be, like, roughly?
Well, I started wrestling in 89, so 92.
Okay.
And so 92, I sent out 48 videotapes. Got like 24 responses, but did 8 of those shows. And we're talking about Nevada, Tennessee, Kentucky before there was a commission, you know.
Yeah.
Towns that the other people in my school wasn't going to. But my family bought me a Thunderbird, easy on gas.
Yeah.
Was helping me with my dream, giving me gas money to get where I gotta go, and here I am, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm famous, like I've never been on no major TV, but you've heard of me.
Absolutely. Know? Well, to me, the thing that stands out with what the story you just told was, you talked about the 15 guys on the side of the room that have been working 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
There probably wasn't one of those guys that were smart enough to do what you did, to find that, to get your name out there. You know,
because they're still wrestling. Those same guys
Yeah.
are still wrestling in that same area,
Right.
and still people in that area know them.
Yeah.
Other areas, nobody knows.
Well, in today's world, you got all these little buzz phrases, right? In today's world, they call that networking, right? You're going to meet people and can make the connections. You took the step further, and see, that's what amazes me. Is like, even when I was, as much as I loved wrestling, getting in, and I had a foot in the door with Dominic.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have been that smart to like say, hey, I want to send a tape to these guys. You know, I wouldn't even know how to do that, like, or to even open it.
Oh, really?
You know, so like that again, it just astounds me. Like, when you go, every time I speak to somebody, the story is always similar but different.
Yeah.
You know, there's always that's the first I've heard that, and what a brilliant thing back in '92, right?
Yeah.
You know, damn near 30 years ago. I remember working. Like, I was aware, like you said, everybody knew you, right? I'd heard your name around the business as I was working in the WCWs and ECW later, and back to WWE or F then. You kept hearing names, and you hear that periodically. A name will pop out, and you hear it here and there, people talking about them, and you don't meet them. But I remember, I don't know if it was the first time I met you, but we worked in Columbus, Ohio. We had a wrestling match. I think it was for the Clowns.
Oh yeah.
And
I took on Necro. The bottom rope broke. We only had 2 ropes.
Yeah, and for some reason, I was involved in something, and I remember you had a garbage can full of the neon lights. So I thought to myself, like, oh my God, he's gonna kill himself.
Right.
You know, and afterwards, I watched you do it. I thought afterwards, you know, when I'd see Mick get hit with the chairs being handcuffed, I'm like, oh,
right.
Oh, come, please don't do that. And I'm sitting back like, don't. I mean, well, fuck, if he's got me on the edge of my seat, I know he's got the people on the edge of their seat, right? And it goes back to an old Bill Watts thing. Bill Watts used to, you know, again, the older I get, you'll hear me say, Bill Watts taught me this, Dominic taught me that. I'm repeating all this stuff now.
I love hearing that. I love hearing stuff.
But Bill Watts used to say at Thanksgiving dinner, nobody wants to sit down and see the big old pile of turkey.
Yeah.
You want a little bit of everything. So on a wrestling show, you want a good women's match. You want a good tag match. You want a great high-flying match. You want a hardcore match. It gives those fans walk out there drained because they've literally gotten everything.
That's it.
Now, I'm curious, like with the death match, because you've become so synonymous with death matches. Like when you and Ian Rotten first got together and started doing the death match stuff, by that time you were pretty well versed in it, or you were still learning your feet in it?
I knew, like I said, I was watching those videotapes, and I knew that that's the style that I wanted to do. So then, Ian and Axel in America was the first 2. And you know this. They was doing the Taipeis and the barbed wire bats and the no rope barbed wires. So then, depending on who you talk to, if you talk to Ian or if you talk to everybody else on the fucking planet, he either got fired or quit.
Yeah.
I know you could probably think the 1% that says quit. But anyway, so once I found out he wasn't in ECW no more, Shane, I went on a hunt. I talked to every wrestler, every promoter I could, trying to figure out where this guy was. And finally my buddy Kamala Jr. said, hey, I found him. He's in Louisville, Kentucky. So he ran a show and said, if you want, I'll bring that guy in and you can wrestle him. So Ian talked to me on the phone and said, hey, I don't know you, but what match do you want to do? And that's when barbed wire bat was famous. I was like, let's do barbed wire bat.
Yeah.
And he agreed to everything. And then when he got there, he didn't even bring a barbed wire bat. He brought a leather strap. And he said, I don't know you, you don't know me, so I don't want you swinging bats. Let's do this leather strap, and then we'll go from there. So I was out to show this man that this is what I wanted to do.
Sure.
So every time that leather strap barely hit my arms, my chest, I was just going to town on myself.
Yeah.
To where the king of gigs was like, "Damn it, kid, stop gigging." You know?
Right.
So after that, he was like, "You know what? You showed me."
Yeah.
So he started taking me on the road, and then Dennis Carluzzo, NWA in Pennsylvania. We did the. Okay, so again. I said, I pitched this idea to Ian, the 4 sides of pain match. And then Ian changed it to the 4 corners of pain match. Now, the weapons are not in the fucking corners, so
Right.
he just wanted the recognition of being... anyway.
Right.
So, we did this for Dennis Carluzzo, the 4 sides of pain match. There was glass, thumbtacks, barbed wire, and mouse traps. And it made the magazines.
Wow.
Now, this was before social media.
Right.
And you couldn't get your name out there for shit until you hit them magazines. And I had a 4-page spread, and it was talked about on the cover of the magazine.
Nice.
After that, promoters and wrestlers wanted to know what this Mad Man Pondo was about. So now I started getting people searching me out.
Yeah.
Which is unheard of. In your, let's see, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 8 years. 8 years of wrestling. It's unheard of that wrestlers are looking for you.
Right.
Now, the problem with that was Ian didn't want me to go anywhere because he was doing IWA Mid-South, 400 houses, 400 people houses on a Tuesday, every week. So he really didn't want me to go nowhere, but Saturday and Sundays I would go anyway because that's how you do it. You know, you get your name out there. So sure enough, social media did start hitting. Nowadays, if you want to know a move that Schlack did last week, you can search it on your phone and boom, there it is.
There it is, yeah.
But back in the day, people don't understand this. They do not understand how, you know, those videotapes, those tape trading. A lot of, something that helped me out a lot was dirt sheets.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how they did it, but they put my email address on the dirt sheets. And people started emailing me for merchandise. Of course, I didn't have no merchandise. I didn't know nothing about it.
Right.
And then promoters and wrestlers started writing me on that email. So, and I had a web TV. You remember web TV?
Oh yeah. Way back.
Mine was Mad Man Pondo in the house, the longest damn email address I could have made. So if they wanted to get a hold of me, they had to put all that shit in there.
Yeah.
So I was getting a lot of jobs, and then me and Ian, you know, he was doing good with his company, and the clowns got a hold of me.
Yeah.
So me and Ian did a thumbtack death match in Michigan, and Hector Hatchett and the Sewer Dweller was there, which is Violent J and Shaggy's wrestling. So after our match, they had put out a videotape called Stranglemania Live, and they had Ian and Axel's pictures on that videotape, so he already had heat with them.
Yeah.
Snubbed them, didn't want to have nothing to do with them. Well, all I knew was here's these two weird white dudes with dreadlocks. Man, we loved your shit and all this, you know. And they said, one of these days we're gonna be big with this wrestling, and we want you to come with us. Well, you know damn well we hear shit all the fucking time.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, all right, cool, man. And then they went and they got one of their T-shirts, and it was a Super Balls T-shirt that had a dick and a balls with Superman cape and all that. So already I'm like, what is these guys about? But they gave me one of their CDs.
Yeah.
I listened to that all the way home, and I was like, you know what? These guys are pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
So then I was in St. Louis, Missouri, O'Fallon, Missouri with my mom, and I see kids wearing their T-shirts. And I'm like, holy shit, that's those guys that said that they would bring me. So I didn't know how to get a hold of them. And then they did their first, they was running shows out of their warehouse for their fans. But then they did a show in I can't remember what the building's called, in Detroit. And they told this guy, Dan Curtis, whatever you do, get a hold of Mad Man Pondo. And that's been way over 20 years. I've been to all 20 gatherings. Always done something in the ring. I always appreciate the Insane Clown Posse for bringing me with them. I just did, me and Akira just wrestled for JCW. They got one this weekend, but I'm gone at WrestleMania weekend. I got 3 bookings at WrestleMania weekend, so nice. I can't do it. But
the clowns always amaze me because I remember like first meeting them. They would come to shows that we'd be wrestling in Detroit,
right?
And you said like you start hearing kids in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know, I'm all the way in Pittsburgh and they're in Detroit. Like, I had seen them like a regional talent, right? Mm-hmm. Now suddenly in Pittsburgh I'm hearing them. I'm on the road in Dallas and hearing their stuff, and these guys are catching on. What I've come to learn from those guys is, get past, it's like Gene Simmons, right? You see the face and the makeup and the tongue and the blood and everything. Yeah. Behind that's a brilliant businessman.
Yes.
And those guys are brilliant businessmen.
Was you there for the Sabu Rob Van Dam beatdown?
No.
I don't know if it was a beatdown, but Insane Clown Posse was on ECW.
Oh, in ECW, yeah. Yes. I thought you were talking about one of the
No. I think it was Rob Van Dam, right? Sabu and Rob Van Dam.
Yeah. And they can't. Every time I've been around those guys, they're very gracious.
Yes.
They run a professional show, and that's for an old timer like me. That's what I'm concerned with. I don't want to be sitting here with my thumb on my ass. There's 15 minutes between matches, whatever. It's boom, boom, boom. The show starts. Everything's done over the top. It's a spectacle, right? And I can see so clearly what they're doing and think, but kudos to the guys, man. Great businessmen and musicians and entertainment. The wrestling show, their music, their rap music shows, everything they do is so over the top. But to me as a fan, that's what I loved about Kiss, right? You go to a Kiss show, you walk out, you feel like you've just been beat up, right? Because you're so into it and watching everything. The clowns do the same thing. Now, back to the death matches, because as somebody who was like, from my mindset, I came into wrestling. Dominic was a wrestler, the moves and the counters and the takedowns, the amateur background, and having had amateur background, that was like my focus coming into the business. And so you sort of see the business with the blinders on, like the hip loss and arm bars and whatever. You're looking from the wrestling point of view. Then you start coming in, you see the guys from Japan. And doing their stuff, and then you see the stuff from Mexico, and you're thinking, okay, so now the blinders are starting to spread out a little bit. You're seeing a little bit more macro view of the business. Yeah. The death matches, like for me, like looking at like Terry and ECW, Terry Funk and Sandman and Sabu and Mick earlier, and watching them, the stuff they're doing. First of all, like, how is it, like, we talked before, and you said, I feel great. I'm thinking, with all that you've done in the ring, my joints feel like hell. Not complaining. I mean, it comes honestly enough.
Right.
But after all those death matches and those insane moves, and bumps that you've taken and stuff, how the hell are you still walking?
Well, this is totally politically incorrect, but I always say that retardation ain't helped anybody else out in life more than it has me. I mean, that's all I can say, man. My knees are fine. Yeah. I'm overweight, so. I don't get around as fast as I used to, but I get in there with younger kids, with older guys. Yeah. The problem now is these younger kids are watching them videos and saying, "Hey man, can we do this spot that I saw you do?" and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, that was 20 years ago. Yeah. I don't want my spleen to shoot out my asshole now or something like that. But but it humbles me that they asked me if they can do those spots, because that means
they remember you.
They watched me. They studied me or anything like that. Yeah. So did I answer that question?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so this deathmatch thing, I know you really want to talk about deathmatches, and it had been frowned upon for years. It's still frowned upon. But with AEW, I don't know if you remember the first time Moxley and oh my God, Omega
yeah.
wrestled, and they went through a barbed wire thing and then through that glass table, and then it kind of died down, and then the big main event was the exploding barbed wire. Was a pay-per-view in America set around that.
Right.
Now, no matter how shitty that finish was, that was a death match that drew those people to that.
Right.
And then now, and I'm so proud of them. I don't know if you watched it. Did you watch Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker?
I hadn't seen that yet.
Oh my God, dude! And people went nuts about it. So I think AEW is going to help death matches start getting mainstream. Maybe not mainstream, but more accepted. Because, my God, Shane, it is really hated by, and I get it. There's a lot of wrestling fans. I'm a wrestling fan.
Sure.
But these guys don't want their wrestling ruined with these guys that are, but
it's the pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
At Thanksgiving dinner, it's the
I
dessert.
think me and you, because I know that you've got the mindset, I've got the mindset. We have evolved with the times. We realize that there is more than wrestling. So we have to do, if you want to stay in wrestling, you have to evolve with it.
Right.
It's the guys who just refuse to evolve with it. I mean, if Terry Funk can evolve with it, anybody can.
Yeah, right.
And look at the shit he was doing to his body.
Dude, and just when you said that, as soon as you said it, instantly in my head when people bring Terry up in that way. We were in ECW. Now, he was 53 years old at this time.
Yes.
Right around the same age that I am. So I'm thinking, like, go back and watch. I'm like, how the hell is he doing it? But we were doing some big schmoz at ringside. Tommy was there. I think Brian Lee was there. There were a bunch of us fighting at ringside, and Terry's climbing up to the top. Now, Terry's a tall, lanky guy, right? He's all spread out, right? And he jumps off of the moonsault, and we all go to grab him. When we grab him, like, the way he came down, the way he opened up, we grabbed him, like, from here down.
Yeah.
So, of course, his head fell into that concrete from 15 feet in the air, and it sounded like if you dropped a bowling ball. Clang. And my first thought was, my God, we killed Terry Funk, right? And the bastard got right up and swung in. And I thought to myself, like, holy, can you kill this guy? Like, he's just tougher than nails. But it was that kind of stuff, because I knew Terry, I was a fan, a huge mark of Terry Funk growing up. And when he did all that stuff, right? Yeah. And like you said, evolved with the times, right? He got older and moving on and doing different things and expanding that stuff. And, became the crazy guy and all, but the one thing the fans knew with Terry was when he went to the ring was whether they get the crazy guy or the 1976 wrestler, right, that they were going to get entertainment. Yes. And I think the fans see the same thing from death matches. Right. But with AEW and the melding of that with death matches, it's a perfect segue because one of the questions I have, do you, as somebody who's obviously a master of death matches, do you think that can go too far?
Yeah. So Nick Gage went to do a suicide dive through light tubes and had to get helicoptered out. But I mean, he's fine. Yeah. But died there. I think. I
mean, he really died, flatlined.
Died, and they in the helicopter revived him on the way to the hospital. So yeah, that went a little far. So there is more risk of accidents happening in death matches, but you also got to think, and I don't know if people's gonna hate on me saying this, but Hayabusa was not in a death match, and he did the lion salt, and from the second rope to the ring, paralyzed. I mean, yes, there is more accident factors in death matches, but no more. Yeah, yes. Well, help me out, Shane. So there's more in death matches that you can have accidents in, but you have accidents every day.
Right. Now, I'm curious, when you're approaching a match like this, especially early on, but now that you're, like I said, you sort of mastered that genre, like what precautions are you taking? I'd be terrified to go out and use light tubes or glass like that, barbed wire. I remember when Terry Funk and Dory had the barbed wire match in East Chevy Arena. They were literally so tangled and stuck in their neck, and one was right by Terry's eye, and thinking like they had to literally be cut out of it. And I thought, one slight move to the right or left, and you're losing an eye or ripping a jugular vein or something. So, what kind of precautions do you take going into the match and during the match?
I really don't. That's the crazy thing. When I'm asked to do a match, they'll say, "This is what we're putting in your match."
Yeah.
And if I accept, I accept. If I don't accept, I don't accept. And that's about as far as it goes. Once I leave the curtain and people start chanting my name, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
Adrenaline
takes over.
Yeah, I don't even think about the pain. So with that saying, one of the Tournament of Deaths for CZW, Combat Zone Wrestling, I'm sitting back there and it just looks like the wasteland back there. Fans covered the whole back area with shit that they made.
Yeah.
And like I told you before, I'm a thinker, right?
Right.
I know I'm out the first match, but I want to be remembered in this damn thing. So I use my brain and I think about things, and I sit back and I watch the guys scour these weapons like it was a flea market. And the one thing that everybody looked at and said, "Oh, we're not going to do that," is they had a bed of pencils with sharpened number 2 pencils. And so I watched so many people walk past that, and then the bravest deathmatch guy I know, Necro Butcher,
Love Necro,
was wrestling Brain Damage, rest in peace, and Necro looked over at that and he goes, "Oh, we're not fucking with that." And I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, there you go.
Alright, so me and Toby Klein wrestled. He gave me a Death Valley driver through the pencils, and
Freeze.
Yes.
Hold this for. How did you not die doing that? How did you not get really fucked up doing that?
well, I did get really fucked up. He gave me the Death Valley driver, and again, that R word that you're not supposed to use. I just wanted to be remembered.
Yeah.
I wanted to be remembered in this tournament, and in that tournament, there's 3 things they remembered. Necro won it, Nick Gage caught on fire, and that Mad Man Pondo landed on pencils.
Yeah.
So I still have pencil lead in my back.
No, I got one from.
Okay, you have one.
That was from a little thing, so I can only
I
imagine.
have it from my shoulder down to my back, and one of them went this far from my crack, and somehow bruised me for the rest of my life. So I have a blue mark that goes down into my crack. So every time I have sex with a girl, Shane, I gotta back out of the room so she don't think I have some shit stain on my crack. And then that had to be taken out. And then for 6 days of agony, the lead, graphite, whatever it is, got in my bloodstream.
I was thinking that as you're talking.
And just fucked me up for 6 days. So it's to the point, and the reason I'm saying that is you say precautions, and I didn't take precautions. I was just stupid and wanted to be remembered. But everybody who watches this podcast, if you're a deathmatch worker, don't land on them pencils. Because Jimmy Loin, who's coming up in the deathmatch world, and Neil Diamond Cutter, who is a pretty good deathmatch worker, I heard both of those guys was going to do it. And I called them on the phone. I said, "Guys, I get it. You want to duplicate that bump. Don't duplicate that bump." It was the worst 6 days. I had the one out of my ass in a baggie for the longest time. And people would come over and say, "Hey, you got that baggie?" They wanted to see it. But,
I don't think it was about your shithole. It was I remember seeing Mick take the bump off. The infamous bump in WWF. I don't know which one it was at that point. And my first reaction was I was pissed at him. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like when he hits his body twists, it looks like he's literally ripped him out like a car wreck, you know? Like, oh my God. And then later takes that bump through the cage that looked even worse. Like for me, when a few, I don't want to sound judgmental, but a few, like I'm seeing kids today in the business, and it seems to me that there's, I don't know if it's just because of social media or if it's legitimate. I don't watch enough to be able to gauge it and say specifically, okay, I've got the scientific numbers. But it seems to me, from what I'm seeing on social media, there seems to be a lot of injuries going on with the kids. Because I think like back when I was trained, like safety was drilled into us. If you're not 100% certain I can do this crazy flippy-flop move with you and not drop you on your head and break your neck, we ain't doing it. Not till I can get it to 100% and you feel comfortable with it. So with that death match, again, melding into this, and seemingly these kids not having had that safety precautions, like a safety mechanism built into them, do you worry, like there's times when I think in the business, like things we did in East Side we were very proud of, and the thing like, did we maybe push it a little bit too far, and the kids wanting to top it, and by the grace of God, nobody ended up crippled or dead there. Do you worry about that long term with these death matches and the kids wanting to top Pondo?
Here is the difference of top it and getting your name out there. So me and you both understand the importance. If you are going to stay in professional wrestling, you don't want to be them Indiana guys. You want to get your name out there.
Sure.
So if you do, Sarah Logan.
Yeah.
Most ungrateful chick in the business. Anyway, I told her, I said, because I skyrocketed, I quick shot her career.
Yeah.
5 years she was in Ring of Honor, NXT, SmackDown, Raw in 5 years. But what I told her was there has to be one move that you do that no other girl will do. Okay, so that's when we came up with the slingshot moons. The stands up there, hits her legs, and moonsault. We went to our buddy Cashflow's school, and until she got that right, we didn't leave. And then she started doing that. That one move. I'll even exclude her out. The Carnage Cup in, I can't remember, one of the A words, Arkansas or Alabama, I don't know.
One of them.
But John Rare and a guy named Spider Boudreaux took a box cutter, and John Rare hit Spider Boudreaux in the arm with it, and of course, and people, even deathmatch workers, lost their mind. And I'm like, why are you guys so crazy about this? And they're like, because a box cutter should have never been used. Now, if you remember, me and Ian used scissors. Did you ever see that clip?
Yeah, I guess.
Now, we wanted a job at CZW. Hat Guy was there. All right?
Yeah.
Ian said, get me on the ropes in front of Hat Guy and slice me across my forehead, and then I'll slice you in your arm in front of Hat Guy. Because if you can impress Hat Guy, you got a job at CZW.
Right.
Now me, yeah, I watched the videos religiously and knew who that guy was, but I didn't think that one fan would make that big of a difference. But Zandig even said, you guys know that you almost made Hat Guy puke out there, right? That's saying something. Zandig said that. So they didn't really want Ian. They didn't hire Ian. They hired me.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's not that they're trying to top, to me, it's not that the younger kids are trying to top what the older generation of deathmatch did. I think they want to stay in this business. They want to be remembered. Nowadays, they want to sell their merch. oh my God, Deathmatch Workers has merch at the ass now.
Yeah.
So if you're doing the most craziest things on the show, then yes, people's going to buy your merch. Yes, GCW and ICW No Holds Barred are doing sellout shows of 300 or 400 people, even more than that.
Yeah.
They want to be a part of that. They want to be in front of those 300, 400 people. So when you say top it, yes, they are trying to top it, but to me, it's. I think people are figuring out, just like I did back there with those Indiana guys. If you make that name, you don't have to worry about it. You know, people are going to come to you. Yeah. That's what I think.
Well, I get your point, because I guess if we were both younger and way skinnier than we are now, and we're long jumpers, you go out and jump 23.9, and sooner or later someone's going, I got to hit 24, right, or 24, 3.10.
Yeah.
There's always, I guess, and we were the same way. I remember, wanting to top, not. Like, I never thought being better than a Terry Funk or anything. It was just like try to figure out a way to slide my way in there, to make that mark. But I just hope the kids understand that, that kind of, like with you with the pencils, an inch or two this way or that way could have been disastrous.
But I didn't care. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was thinking
right
about
at the time.
that. Yeah.
Sure.
6 days I thought about that.
Yeah.
6 days afterwards, oh my God, I cannot even explain to you. They talk about how bad Corona is, and I'm like, oh, it's okay, I landed on pencil.
yeah. A sample, like what symptoms were you feeling? When you say...
So when I would wake up, so it took me forever to get to sleep just because my body was agonizingly from the top of my knees all the way up to my shoulders. I don't know about bloodstream. I don't know how far it goes down or what up. But I was just laying in bed, and so I would have to go to the bathroom. It'd take me 20, 30 minutes to get to that bathroom to even get this arm to cross over to get out of bed, and it was just the worst shit ever. Like,
were your nerve endings on fire? Were you just
my fingers were fine. I could move my fingers, but I'm talking about from here to my shoulders was just I don't know. This is probably terrible to say too. I don't know what the ending stage of a cancer victim is, but to listen to them explain what that is what I was experiencing, not wanting to get out of that bed. And my wife would be like, you got to go to the hospital. I'm like, no, it's got to get better tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't.
And
then the next day she'd be like, all right, now we go to the hospital. I'm like, this is day 2. It's got to get better. And it didn't. And then finally, day 6, I reached behind me and I could click a piece of the lead that was near my crack.
Yeah.
So like a zit, I took 2 fingers and I pushed on my ass cheek and it came out.
Oh.
So I don't know if that was the part that was messing me up, because after that I started clearing up a little bit. But people would come over to my house. Like I remember that, I'll never forget this. There was a Weird Al concert. I love Weird Al.
Yeah, sure.
And he was in Cleveland, and some friends came over and said, hey, we're going to the Weird Al. I know you want to go. And I'm like, man, I'd love to, but I can't,
It's a good move.
Yeah.
Wait, see, the closest I can come to approximating that was when I was getting off the OxyContin and detoxing and, jonesing and all those words you've heard used. The only way I could describe it was it felt like my soul had been ripped from my body. If you said, okay, you'd lay there like till your bladder was this big ready to burst, because to get up and go the 20 feet to the bathroom was like climbing Mount Everest 3 times and then being told to do it a 4th time.
Well, would you hold your shit as long as you could? Me too.
As long as you could, and finally go in there and spray out the backside and and then go back and lay down for the next 8 hours till you couldn't hold it anymore.
That was my job. Those 6 days, just going to the bathroom.
Miserable feeling.
I'd punch in, go to the bathroom, punch back out, and lay back down and just agonize. It was so bad.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, so it didn't hit me until on the way home, and 10, 12, 17 hours, whatever it was, from Philly to Charleston, West Virginia.
Yeah.
My Asian wife didn't drive, and Gypsy Joe's in the back seat, like, motherfucker, get me home, I gotta smoke, you know, and all this while your body is getting ready to tell you how bad you fucked up, you know, and you can't tell Gypsy Joe, shut the fuck up, you know, you just gotta. Yeah, and I'm like, Joe, I'm doing my best, man, and I don't know, and I'm dripping in sweat.
Yeah.
I got the air on high, and of course she's asleep, so she doesn't even realize, and I don't know, it was just really bad. Don't land on pencils, whatever you do.
During those 6 days, was there a time that went through your brain, maybe I should have done it?
Every day. Every day I was like, that. I should have no land on those pencils. Today, I mean, here we are talking about it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bother me that bad today. But those 6 days, and then after those 6 days, I would go to another wrestling show, and people would be like, "Man, I saw you laying on them pencils," you know.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty good advertisement.
Sure.
Just the advertisement method of getting to it was the worst shit I've ever done.
Yeah, I bet it sounds like I don't envy you. What a segue to something else here. Like your connection to Japan, you had a hell of a run in Japan, right? For what, 10 years?
8 years.
8 years?
8 years.
Yeah, that's a pretty good run for anybody. I mean, I remember
43 trips there and back.
And what was the average? Was it 2-3 weeks?
See, here's the thing. When I was there with CZW, I wrestled Abdullah, and I wrestled him for MRW in Overland, Missouri, and he loved it. Like, you've been around Abdullah, right?
Oh, yeah.
When Abdullah's done with his match, he wants to sit the fuck down. And okay, with me, I'm back there, and after the match, he comes to the back. He goes, "Champ, get up, let's go back out."
Yeah.
Everybody freaks out when I tell them that. They're like, "Abdullah,
Yeah.
for no money, came and got you," and I was like, "Yeah." So he said, "Champ, I'm getting ready to go to Japan. When I come back, have a videotape at my restaurant, and the next time I go to Japan, I'll take it with me." I wasn't having it.
Yeah.
I went straight home. Hooked up 2 VCRs, made a videotape, and overnight forwarded it to his restaurant. And he called me in like 2 days and said, "Damn, champ, you really want to go to Japan, don't you?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do."
Yeah.
So he's the one who got me to Japan. And then, so they threw me in with the CZW guys, and that lasted about 2 years, and then 2 or 3 years, and then they made me the Gaijin boss. So when I was there with CZW, it was sporadic, but then when I became the boss, there would be times they would fly me in for one show.
Ooh.
Yeah,
That must have been some hell of a jet lag.
but I had an Asian wife.
Yeah.
So when they would have me there for 6 months, I didn't have to stay in no dojo or nothing. I had a bedroom, you know,
Yeah.
which a lot of guys don't
Yeah.
have. So yeah, for 8 years, did that, and then they sat me down one time and said, "Hey, we have bad news. There's a company that wants to fly their workers in, and we only have to pay them $40 a night." Jakarta. It was Jakarta, right?
Yeah.
And to begin with, I was pretty pissed off about it. I'm like, what is Jakarta gonna offer Big Japan?
Yeah.
So they tried it out, but of course it didn't work because, you know, Jakarta's like, I love it, don't get me wrong, but it's the comedy wrestling,
Yeah.
so.
But also, and not to blow smoke up your ass, but after 8 years there, the fans have come to latch
Yes.
on to you. You're a commodity there, and
They
they know what
would,
they're going to
they
get
would
with you.
chant. So I was the leader of Baka Gaijin, which means stupid foreigners.
Yeah.
So it was me and Too Tough Tony. Any American who came over was a part of Baka Gaijin, except for Masada. And the reason that we did that was we always had somebody to wrestle.
Right. Sure.
So so Toby Klein, Necro, I mean, just any American that came over became a part of Baka Gaijin, and it was always Masada and a Japanese guy that we would wrestle. That way, we could communicate with Masada and have good stuff. And then they would chant our names and all this, and it was at the height of where they was chanting our names that they said, okay, we're bringing in Chikara. So I felt pretty disappointed in them, but I'm a businessman too.
Sure.
I was running IWA East Coast at the same time, and so like I said, I used my brain, and even on a flight home, I was thinking, okay, if somebody told me that they're bringing 5 guys for $20, would I use those 5 guys? Yes, I would. So, I calmed myself down out of it. Are you getting ready to go on Dark Side of the Ring?
Supposedly, they called Moose and set it up, and then the week that we were supposed to fly to Philadelphia to do it, they got a hold of Chris and said that they were having trouble with the pandemic. Pennsylvania is one of these states. And they were having trouble getting the crew, and so they were supposed to reschedule, and we hadn't heard. And I spoke to Luke Hawks yesterday, oddly enough, and he had told me he had recorded, but they came down where he was shooting a show down in Georgia, and said they were mentioning about talking with me. So, I hope they do, because I remember, for me, first of all, XPW was the first time I ever booked.
Yeah.
And, I had brought with me, I was the goofball kid that when I got into, if I had gone into car mechanics, I wanted to be the best damn car mechanic in town.
Right.
I wanted to learn everything about my business, and that's what kept me fascinated. I remember we'd be in the ring, and we'd get to the dressing room, and everyone, hey, did you see the girl in the black and white in the second round? I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know. I saw my opponent. I didn't see a crowd. I may have seen the referee.
And people ask me all the time, did you hear what I said? No.
Yeah.
Crowd members will be like, did you hear me when I
yelled? Yeah.
I know. Well, Dark Side of the Ring, did you ever meet Herb Abrams back in the day?
No, I hadn't, but I've been wanting to ask you about that, because, and we spoke about this briefly before we came on the air, but I remember, it's distant because it was so long ago. But I can't remember if it was Herb Abrams or somebody with Herb Abrams called me, and I had either just signed with somebody or was getting ready to sign, and that whole thing, I forget if it felt, but I remember Mick was involved, and he and I were talking, but then I saw the Behind the Ring, the Dark Side of the Ring episode. I didn't know 99% of that story. I mean, how much of that were you privy to?
I have a piece of that story.
Is it? Right.
So
please tell.
Okay.
Do tell.
So, do you remember WCW when Ricky the Dragon had a manager called the Super Ninja?
Yes.
Okay. The Super Ninja was a guy out of Vincennes, Indiana, named Howard Brackney, and he was going to WCW and doing job matches, and he got the job because he had the suit. That's the only reason he got the job, right? And then,
let's make a deal. If you got a hard-boiled egg in your tights right now, I'll give you $1,000.
Exactly.
Oh, there you go.
So they gave him a job, and he called me one time and said, "Hey," and I remember I was tape trading and I was moving that satellite around, so I got UWF.
Yeah.
I would record UWF.
Yeah.
So he tells me, "Hey, I've got a song at UWF. Do you know what that is?" I'm like, "Yeah, Herb Abrams," and I started naming some of the wrestlers that was there. And he goes, "Yeah, well, I got you on that, but you have to drive." I said, "No problem." All right. Yeah. So I'm going to tell you why I'm telling you this part of the story later. So already Florida is 14 hours from where I am, and we had a legit 4-hour delay on what's it called, Eagle Mountain, or Georgia, right there.
Yeah.
And when we finally got to the end of the 4 hours, a semi had hit a bear, and the bear is laying in the road breathing. And I even made the comment, "Man, I can't wait till that bear gets up and slaps the ass off of somebody and get pissed off."
Yeah.
So 14, 15, 16, 17 hours it took us to get to Fort Lauderdale. So we go inside the lobby of the hotel, and Captain Lou Albano and Bruno Sammartino are the first two we see.
Yeah.
And they greet us. You know, I've been watching these guys on WWE for WWF forever.
Sure.
And they come and they're like, hey, it's so good to meet you guys. And they're like, why don't you guys go take your bags upstairs and come downstairs and we'll buy you guys breakfast. And I was like, these are the nicest guys in the fucking world, right? So we do. And at this point, at any point, the Super Ninja, Howard Bratney, could have told me what was going on, but he did not. So we go downstairs and they're like really interested in me and both of them. Bruno Sammartino and Captain Lou Albano was asking me how long I've been wrestling and where I've been wrestling and all this. So we get to the arena and I can't remember his name, but he was also on Dark Side of the Ring. He had the yellow, shiny. Anyway, he was Herb Abrams' second.
Okay. Blonde kid.
No, this is an older guy with gray hair and a mustache.
Oh, I think a wrestler. Okay, yeah.
No, he was just he wasn't a wrestler. He was just a promoter.
Yeah.
You're talking about Steve Wild thing.
Right.
Which he's coming into the story in a second. So I start following the other wrestlers to the locker room, and you check your name, and then you go inside. Yeah. And they had you a section to where you got dressed at. So I'm going over this list, and there's all these names on it, and I'm like, shit, I'm not on it. So I go over to that same guy I was talking about, that yellow jacket.
Yeah.
I think he even had it on then. And I said, hey, I was looking on that list over there, and I'm not on it. And he goes, oh, I think you're on that list over there. You have wrestled in this building in Fort Lauderdale. There's 2 locker rooms on each side.
Is that the...
Anyway.
Yeah, the seats are all on one side?
Yes. Yeah, it's a theater seating.
Yes, yeah. What is anyway. Yeah,
You've wrestled in
yes.
this. Okay. So he says, I don't think you're on this list. I think you're on that list over there. You know, there's 2 locker rooms, right? So I go over and I'm reading
now
that.
Now come full circle from back in the day, right?
Yeah.
You kids sit over there, we'll sit over here.
So I'm reading. Now, I'm only 2 years in the business. Don't forget this.
Sure.
I'm reading the list. Paul Orndorff, Bam Bam Bigelow, Dr. Death Steve Williams, Bob Orton, Mad Man Pondo. What? There's only like 12 names on there's probably, because it was a TV taping of 4 shows,
right.
So there was probably 50 names on that list, 10 names on this list,
and yours, right?
And I'm one of the guys. So I'm flipping out. So I'm sitting there. Paul Orndorff is so nice to me.
Yeah.
Everybody's so nice to me. So we go out and we do our match. It's the shits. I'm only 2 years.
Who are you working with?
The Super Ninja.
Okay, the Ninja guy. Okay,
the same guy.
Yeah. All
right. I'm telling you Herb Abrams' story.
All right.
It's the shit. It's so terrible.
Yeah.
And I watch it to this day, and I mean, Captain Lou Albano and Bruno Sammartino are just ripping on me on fucking commentary. The same 2 dudes that bought me breakfast are now my worst fucking enemies ever. So the dude in the yellow jacket says, hey, we need to talk to you. And he takes me, okay, so you know that there's a locker room here, and like an electric room forward.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking, yes.
So they took me into the electric room. Greg DeGeorge, Captain Lou Albano, and Bruno Sammartino are in this room. And I'm like, oh shit, what's going on here? And they're like, hey, what happened to all the moonsaults and all the flips you were supposed to do? And I said, did you guys want me to do those? So I could have tried to do some of those. And they're like, tried? Have you never done them before? I'm like, no. And they all leave the room, right?
Yeah.
So it was Fort Lauderdale, Melbourne, Miami. I only got to do Fort Lauderdale. They took me off of Melbourne and Miami, and I'm just flipping out. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
One of the big turn.
Yes. So the Super Ninja, at any time could have told me he needed a ride, and I had a cheap gas Thunderbird. He told them that I could do all these things to get me booked.
Oh, shit.
And remember I told you the bear story?
Yeah.
Had plenty of time. I could have, so he could have told me that. I could have come off second rope, faked a knee injury.
Right, right.
Anything.
Sure.
Other than just throwing me to the wolves, piece of shit wrestler out there. Okay, so I forgot about the Steve Wild Thing Ray. I'm down. So I watched Steve Wild Thing Ray cry about Herb, but he was by the pool, and of course I was watching the TV show because I had the satellite, so I knew who he was. And I was like, "Hey, Steve Wild Thing Ray," and he's telling me how, yeah, fucking Herb, he's bringing in these wrestlers and spending a week, and then I got to come in the same night, you know, and all this shit.
Yeah.
He's like really pissed off, but I saw him cry about Herb. But anyway, so yeah, so finally I put two and two together, and I said, what did you tell him? You know, and so now he starts telling me. Well, I told him, you know, because they sent us home.
Yeah.
And he starts telling me, well, I kind of hyped you up a little more than what I should, and starts telling me shit. I didn't talk to him all the way home.
Yeah.
14 hours. I was so fucking mad at this man.
Yeah.
All he had to do was just tip me a little bit and say, hey, you know, I told these guys this bunch of shit.
Well,
and if you go on YouTube and you search Pondo versus Super Ninja, God forbid, you can see that piece of shit match.
I will have to, because I knew Bro well, knew Albano well, but I can also see their point of view. They've been told this kid's going to do all this stuff, right? And then here he comes and does none of it. But like, back to Super Ninja. Did he not realize or understand that at some point this ruse is going to be discovered?
I don't know. You would think he would.
Yeah, right. I mean,
17 hours to get there.
Yeah.
Tell me something.
Yeah.
No, but he needed a ride, and I had the car.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was so fucking.
And the
pissed
epitaph
off.
is, he goes out and fails to deliver, right? And then boom, was he off the rest of the shows as well?
Yeah, well, I was the ride.
Yeah. So
They took me off the shows, so. WCW Super Ninja, you know, I wasn't waiting around. I was so mad at him.
I bet.
He better never had asked me, hey, will you go ahead and take me to the next two shows?
Yeah. So the kids out there, remember, don't lie your way into a promotion because
so stupid.
Now, but also by that time, I mean, were you starting to get your legs 2 years in? It's still pretty young in the business, right?
I was the shits.
But would you have been able to go out, like if they said, go out and give us the hardcore stuff, were you starting to master that
No,
yet?
that wasn't even a thing yet.
Right, right.
I mean, yeah, I had watched the videotapes, but at that time, never really even thought about I could be that.
Right.
It wasn't until the In Your House pay-per-views that I watched all my friends just focus in on the TV. I'm like, oh yeah, I can do this. This will help me. So no, I wouldn't have been able to do anything. So same guy, Howard Brackney. And I know Moose is giving me the 5.
Yeah, I saw that video.
So
big bear paw come around.
So this will be the last story. So same promoter, Howard Brackney. I had a friend who was an oil guy, and he wanted to help me succeed as well. So Howard Brackney said, hey, I'm bringing in the Junkyard Dog. If you can get your guy to pay for him, you can wrestle him. So I went and told my oil guy. He was all about it. He was like, hell yeah, let's do that. So first WWF guy that I was ever going to wrestle in my life. I was so pumped, so excited. So he was an hour late, but they were still reassuring me he was going to come. And he did get there, but when he got there, he was so ready to leave. He was like, I want to go on right now. And I didn't know the addiction.
Yeah.
But he was pretty adamant about, hey, I want to go on right now. Go ahead and pay me so I can leave. And Howard's like, well, no, you're the main event. And he was like, no, I'm going on right now. And of course, Howard didn't give him his way.
Yeah.
So then Howard said, well, this is your opponent, Mad Man Pondo. I'm 165 pounds at this time.
Yeah.
And he's looking at me and he's like, "You got your wrestling boots, kid? Because you're getting ready to get a lesson." You know, he's like pissed at me now.
Right.
And I'm listening because the only thing that's between me and that conversation is a partition that you can move back.
Yeah.
That's about this thick.
Right.
I'm listening to everything. And Junkyard Dog's like, "I'm not giving him shit. I'm not going to do nothing." And Howard is arguing with him because he knows the oil guy's out there.
Right.
And he wants to bring Coco Beware in. He wants the oil guy to pay for it too.
Sure.
So he's like, "No, I need you." You know, they start arguing, and I go over there and I say, "Howard, it's fine. I don't care if he just goes out there, gives me the headbutt, 1, 2, 3, and Junkyard Dog said, "That's what we'll do," and he walked away. Now, I did not care to do the job in 2 seconds or whatever,
Sure.
but I didn't want Junkyard Dog upset with me.
Right.
And I would watch Saturday night's main event, and they had the Mother's Day special. And Junkyard Dog brought his mother into the ring, and they was doing the whole thing together.
Yeah.
And he did this speech about how mothers are the greatest thing in the world. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for mothers. I remember that, Shane. Remember I told you I used my brain?
Yeah.
So I asked Junkyard Dog to come over into another locker room, but asked my mom to come backstage. I had never asked my mom to come backstage ever. I asked my mom to come backstage and take a picture of me and Junkyard Dog.
Yeah.
So, sure she did, and she's telling him, she's like, "Oh my God, Kevin has been so excited about wrestling you. That's all." And he goes, "This is your boy right here?" And my mom said, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm going to take care of him, don't worry." And next thing I know, Howard came over and said, "I don't know what's going on, but you're not going under. You're not going over, but Don Bass is running in and interrupting your match."
Wow. So just by your brother being back there,
And
swerved
because he did that big speech on Saturday Night Main Event, I knew if I brought my mom back there.
Dude, I'm telling you, I got to give you kudos because when I was a kid, like 2 years in the business, I would have had the brains to think of that, the balls to do it. You know, it would have never even entered my mind. I'd have been lacing my boots going, "What am I going to do?"
Yeah, exactly.
You know, great stuff, man. See, this is what I'm talking about. We could sit and talk like that, and I got 100 million things more because I'm fascinated.
We'll do this again.
Yeah, please do. Please, brother, it's great talking to you.
No, you too, man.
Good to have you here.
I'm not even gonna lie. I was a Shane fan from ECW as well.
It was the hair, wasn't it?
No, it was the promos.
It was what are they? The mullet. The mullet.
It was totally the promos. I'm not talking about that surfboard shit. I'm talking about
Brother,
ECW.
You said it best earlier. We're all marks for the business, right?
Yeah.
I don't know where that.
Or we wouldn't be in this business.
Amen. I don't know.
And one last thing I want to say: stop not taking pictures with guys.
Yeah.
I got my picture with Roddy Piper. Can I do that today?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. No, you can't. You can't.
No,
do that
not today. But I mean, it's crazy. But what is again? I've been in the business for 40 years this Thanksgiving, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm sitting here now and I'm learning stuff. I've heard your name, known you for how long? Never knew any of those stories. I mean, a scant bit about some of them, but I mean, to hear the whole story, but also how you got into business, made a mark in the business. You know, as we both know, it's a hard thing to do.
Yes.
To come into a business where the fans have seen literally everything. That somebody somewhere goes, "I remember that Mad Man Pondo and Bumpy took whatever the Deathmatch."
4-page spread.
Amen.
Wrestling magazine.
It's dude, appreciate you being here, man.
I have a book. I'm going to give you one before we take off. You can go to Amazon.com. Not Memoirs of a Madman, but I'll give you one. You read books?
Yeah, absolutely. I love reading. Any other social media you want to plug?
Nah. I mean, Kevin Kennedy on Facebook, CANADY. Man, I got a Twitter and an Instagram, and I would write people, and people wouldn't write me back. I was like, "Fucking assholes!" But you got to put an at the front of it. I didn't fucking know that. I don't know shit.
Brother, it's great having you.
All right, man.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much. Great having you here with us. Hope you tune in for the next one and bring you some more of the backstage information. God bless y'all.